This is The Like Switch, a book written by a former FBI agent that outlines one of the most important ideas on how to become more likable. Namely, that if you want people to like you, you have to make them feel good about themselves. However, how exactly can you make others feel better around you and thus become more likable? And in which ways might you make others feel worse without even realizing, causing you to become less likable? Well, in this video, I had a chance to talk to the author of the book and answer all of these questions to help you to become more likable.
It is simple, but does it pay off? Yeah, because you develop really good relationships.
So, how did you come up with the golden rule of friendship?
The golden rule of friendship is I was in the FBI and I was a behavioral analyst. I don't know if you know what a behavioral analyst is, but we as behavioral analysts typically had a subject or a target we were looking at and then developed strategies to get that person to confess to committing terrorist acts or espionage. So if I can get a spy to confess and be a traitor to his country, or get a criminal or a terrorist to confess their terrorist acts, I can certainly get people to make friends in a business world or social setting.
And how did you then come up with the golden rule of friendship? Meaning,
That is, well, you have to, it goes back to personality. We all want to be the center of attention. We all think we are the center of attention. So what we want to do is you want to make the other person, the golden rule of friendship is if you want people to like you, you make them feel good about themselves. So the conversation's never about you, it's always about the other person. And the way we can kind of execute that is something called the empathic statement. The empathic statement is nothing more than a person taking what that person said, how they feel, or their physical status, and just mirror it back to them. So you could say, so you're having a good day today if you see somebody smiling. If you see somebody that's sad, you say, oh, things aren't going your way today. So all you're doing is mirroring back to the other person. So the other person says, oh, that person really is interested in me because they noticed something about me, they recognized it, and then they communicated it with me. And it makes you feel good to know other people are paying attention to you. And it's very simple, isn't it? What does it cost to make an empathic statement? Nothing. And
what are some other ways that you think we can make people? Because it makes sense, right? Okay, because if I look back at my own life, I do like the people that make me feel good, and it's not that I don't like them, but I have a certain resistance to people where I don't feel as good. Whether it's numerous reasons why this can happen, right?
yeah.
But sometimes I wonder, how can we make people feel good, but in a way that's still sincere and not forced or planned?
And what we do is you can do what the nonverbal signals are. There's three basic nonverbal signals that we call friend signals. When we approach each other, we do something called an eyebrow flash, and that is just a quick 1/64 of a second raising of the eyebrows, right? So it's a long distance signal. So when we approach one another, we eyebrow flash. I eyebrow flash you, you eyebrow flash me back. That's a nonverbal signal that says you're not a threat, I'm not a threat. So people do this hundreds of times a day. They just don't realize they're doing it. So all I'm doing is telling people, recognize that you do it, and then you can emulate that when you talk to somebody. So if you're not feeling good or you're in a little bad mood or you want to make sure somebody gets a friendship message, what do? You walk up and just do a quick eyebrow flash. Because you can learn that by catching yourself doing eyebrow flashes, getting what it feels like, and then just replicate that same gesture, right? The second one is the head tilt. When we head tilt, we expose our carotid artery. And that says that I'm exposing a very vulnerable part of my body to you, so I trust you. So we tilt our heads. And if people don't believe me, they can look at if they have a dog, dogs will sit, when the owner comes home, the dog will sit there and go what? Like this, to tilt its head. And all that dog is saying is, I trust you, that I'm not going to hurt you, you're not going to hurt me. And a lot of times that dog will flip over on its back and you rub its tummy. And that's the most vulnerable part of the dog. So the dog is saying, I trust you with the most vulnerable part of my body. So all we're doing is sending trust signals back and forth. The last one, I think the most important one, is the smile. Because when we smile, we release endorphins. Endorphins are hormones that make us feel good about ourselves. It's the same kind of hormone. If you exercise a lot, you get like that runner's high, or the high from the exercise. Those are endorphins. So what you want to do is get someone to release the endorphins. So if I smile at somebody, I release endorphins. And if they smile, they release endorphins. So my smile makes them feel good about themselves. So those are the top 3 things that we do every single day, all the time, almost subconsciously. All I'm saying is, if you go into like a conference situation where there's lots of people, what do you want to do? You want to just walk up and go, hi, tilt your head and smile, right? And that
And hopefully do this as natural to not become completely robotic.
And that's where practice comes in. Because when I go see, when I'm interviewing, say, a criminal that's committed a heinous crime, I don't like him, right? But what do I have to do? And smile, right? To let them know I'm not a threat, so I can begin a conversation with them. So that's all we're asking you to do, is practice a little bit. Catch yourself eyebrow flashing. Catch yourself head tilting. Look at other people eyebrow flashing and head tilting and smiling. And then you can kind of pick it up, because you do it every day naturally. But now that we tell you you're doing it, a lot of people get self-conscious. So you just got to get used to doing it. It's not hard. It's very easy to do. And then you start out with an empathic statement. The other way, if you're in a conference, what? Go ahead.
So, didn't want to interrupt. So this is like the non-verbal side. What is the action-based side? But then you jumped already into empathetic statement.
The empathetic statement or the empathic statement, you can pronounce it either way. And I'm in a habit, and the construction you want to use is so you. So you feel good today. So you feel bad today. So you did a good job. So you did this. So you. Why? If you want to say so you put the emphasis on the other person. That's where the focus is, right? Now, if you get used to saying so you can drop the so you and say so. Or you could say, everything's been going your way today. You look like you're happy today. So the first time we say is, I know how you feel. As soon as I say, I know how you feel, the first thing the other person says is what? No, you don't. No. You're not me. Yeah. So we keep it what? So you. That's just to get people used to saying so you. And the other thing you want to do is common ground. Empathic statements are probably the number one rapport building tool. The second and equal, not equal, but almost as powerful rapport building tool is called common ground. If you and I have common ground, then we're going to develop rapport. So
why do you think this? Like it makes sense, because if I think back to the people I feel connected to, oftentimes there was some sort of common ground. Oftentimes values, interests, hobbies. But seeing it from the perspective of the golden rule of friendship, why does that matter so much?
Because when we have common ground, I validate you, and then you validate me. When we validate one another, we feel good, don't we? So I just made you feel good about yourself.
And the other person feels good as well. And
yes.
That's the bond.
And another thing you can do is to make the other person feel good about themselves is to ask people for favors. Instead of saying, can you lend me a pen, or I need a pen or something, I would say, can you do me a favor and give me let me use your pen for a minute? So by doing that, how do you feel when you do somebody a favor?
I feel
You would
good. I feel
think,
like I helped
yeah,
him. I did something
yes,
good. Yeah.
yes. Oh, wait a minute. I just made you feel good about you, didn't I?
Hmm.
So you're going
And
to
that's
like
very
me.
interesting in a way. This I find fascinating if I look back to my own past. There were times when I read all those people skills books and I did a lot of favors and I gave a lot and I didn't ask much back until I realized at some point that I gave so much more than the other person, and the other person felt a little bit, because you want to reciprocate, you want to give back, but I didn't really give many chances to give back. And then there was this weird tension where the person felt bad or guilty because they gave less back. And I see this a lot of times when people try to be nice and kind. They give a lot, they give a lot, they give a lot, but they never really ask for favors. Or if somebody else offers them to pay dinner, they say, no, don't worry, don't worry. You
No,
also create this gap of tension and make the other person feel bad, right?
yes. You've heard the old adage, it's more blessed to give than to receive. But
Mm-hmm.
in order to bless the giver, you have to receive something from the giver.
Mm.
So if somebody says, uh, if they ask, if they don't reciprocate, you're right. There's that awkward. Hey, I'm getting more than I'm giving. That's awkward.
Yeah.
You know how you can solve that problem is a lot of times you say thank you, and then the other person goes, "You're welcome," right? Because I just
Mm.
did something for you. You say thanks. You say you're welcome. No, what you
Yeah.
want to say is, I know you do the same for me,
Mm.
right? So you say, lend me your car for something reason or other. And then you return the car and you go, thank you so much, I appreciate it. And you say, I know you do the same for me. That
Mm.
sets up reciprocity, doesn't it? And
Yeah.
don't we do these things normally? Good salesmen do this instinctively. They may not have the book education to learn these tools, they just do it instinctively. They know
Mm.
how to do these things. But there's a vast majority of people that don't. The other
Mm-hmm.
thing you can do, so you have the empathic statement, you have the friend signals, and then there's something
Yeah.
called when we flatter somebody, we often will use direct flattery. And as soon as you tell somebody, oh, you got a nice dress or your hair's nice or this or that, as soon as you say something nice in a direct compliment, what do people say? What do you want? I'm a professor at Western Illinois University, and my students will often come in and say, oh, Professor Schafer, you're the best professor I've ever had in my whole life, right? And I say, what do you want? Right? Because the shields go up, don't they? So the
Yeah.
better way to do it is called allowing people to flatter themselves. So what you want to say is, so if I see somebody like on the elevator, and this happened to me, I saw a girl on the elevator and she was smiling, and I said, "Oh, you're happy today. Things must have been going your way." She said, "Yes, I passed my test." So I said, "So the hard work must have paid off."
Mm.
So what is she doing? She's patting herself on the back, isn't she? She said, "Yes, I did do a good job. I did study and it did pay off." So I'm allowing her to flatter herself. And then she
Mm.
feels good then, doesn't she? So the golden rule is if I can make you feel good about you, you're going to like me. Does that make
You also
sense?
mentioned something with indirect compliments, which is something I really
Oh, yeah. Well, third
enjoyed
party
doing for a while. Yeah.
yeah, third party compliments are very effective because if I tell you something, you're going to say, what do you want? What's in it? Why are you being nice? Because that's the way people are, very defensive, especially in today's world. So what you want to do is you want to tell the friend of your friend that you want to compliment. Or if you want to impress a significant other or a prospective person of interest, I always go to the person's friend and say, I really like the way that person does this. I really like
Mm.
this. And so then that person is going to tell my targeted person, and they're going to accept that compliment a lot more readily than if I made a direct compliment. So I use this
Basically,
with my
giving a compliment behind the back instead of gossip
yes,
behind the back.
and I use this with my supervisors. I don't tell the supervisor directly, "Hey, I like your management style," because he's going to go, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. What do you want?" So what I'm going to do is go to the person who talks to the supervisor a lot and say, I really like the way the supervisor is managing the unit, and it's about time we had a good manager. Now, what's that guy going to do? He's going to go right to the supervisor and say, "Hey, Schafer said he likes the way you're running things."
Hmm.
And that compliment is far more effective than a direct compliment.
What I find interesting is that in the end, like of course you can do certain planned behaviors like empathetic statements, like compliments, making sure you give the friendship signals. But what I like so much about the friendship, it's not the friendship formula, but the golden rule of friendship, is that in the end, the people who are very genuine, so they care about people, they listen, they are nice to people behind the back, and just spreading nice words about other people. They don't really have to try, but they have the genuine intentions that automatically makes other people feel good about themselves. And then all the things we can do to make people feel good is quite easy once we have the genuine intentions.
Yes, and I think most people are genuine, but in today's world where everybody is online and they're thumb talking and texting, and they don't interact as well as they did when I was a younger person, because we didn't have all the technology. So I get a lot of email from people that say, "You know what? Because of these simple techniques, I'm now able to more effectively communicate with people because they didn't have the practice that we had when we were kids." So it's genuine, and all the things that are in the book are actually genuine things that genuine people do in genuine relationships. A lot of times people don't know what to do in a relationship. They don't know how to communicate with people. One guy says, "I had so much trouble communicating with girls because I wanted to date." And I started using the friendship formula. I started using empathic statements. And I found out that I can communicate very easily with people because I now have the tools that I can use, and they're not they're not fake tools. They're genuine things that people genuinely do. So think about any time that you've had interaction with other people. You've done all these things. You just didn't know you did them. Or if you didn't do them, you didn't
What are
know how
some
you
things?
do them.
So let's say I'm very genuine and I'm a nice person and I care about the other person. What are some things that people do wrong that makes the other people feel bad about themselves without noticing per se?
Well, there's something. If you ask too personal of a question without anything to back it up with, then you're going to run into problems. And I'm going to use an old analogy, checkbook. I don't know, you young folks don't know what a checkbook is. But you used to put money in the bank and write checks, paper checks, and then give it to somebody. And then what happens when your bank account is empty, your check comes back, not sufficient funds, NSF, right? That means you got nothing in the bank. Your check is bad. So the rapport is the same way. If I build rapport with a person and I have sufficient rapport in my rapport building account, then I can start writing checks on that account. In other words, I can start asking you more and more personal questions. So if I have a lot of rapport with you, I can ask you a lot of personal questions. If I don't have rapport with you, that means nobody's going to answer those personal questions because you don't have enough rapport. So a lot of people, when they make a mistake when they ask too many personal questions too soon in a relationship because they don't have the sufficient rapport to back it up with. The second thing they do is they data dump. They want to dump everything about them onto the other person to impress them. Well, the other person is not impressed with you because their world revolves around them, not you.
how would you say that you find because sometimes I think it can be hard to find the balance of asking questions and giving statements yourself. Like, how do you find that balance?
I always fall back with the balance is skewed on the part of the person I'm talking to. I will continually use empathic statements. Then they'll ask me a question. And then I'll say, oh, I do this work or that work, but your work is far more interesting. Tell me about what you do. Because people want to know about other people, right? They want other people to know about them. So you just give them that opportunity. And at the end of the day, that I've had a lot of guys call me and the girls say, you're such a good listener. I really like you. You're a good listener. Yeah, because it's nothing but empathic statements. And then you say, wow, I like that person because they're interested in me. But why don't we do that? That's easy,
Yeah.
isn't it? What you think? And it works 100% of the time. That's one of the few things I can say about human behavior that works 100% of the time. If I make you feel good about you, you're going to like me. 100% of the time that works. But why don't we do it? Because of our egos, right? We think the world revolves around us, so we're going to talk about us. That's normal. That's what humans do. And that's why we can't grasp onto that simple concept of empathic statements. Because we got to get the attention off us onto the other person.
You have a real life FBI past case where you used the golden rule of friendship.
Like, yeah, I mean, the crime was child molestation. This man molested some children, and when he came to my office for an interview, I shook his hand, I head tilted, I eyebrow flashed, I made a couple empathic statements, allowed him to flatter himself a little bit on other things, and then I asked him, would you like some soda? And he said, yeah, I'd like a Coke. And I said, fine. So I opened the door to get the soda for the gentleman. And he said, why are you treating me so nice after what I did? And I went, hang on to that idea. I'll be right back with the soda. So what did I do? He knew he did something bad. He thought I was going to what? Be a very aggressive and judge him. But no, I treated him like what? A friend, right? And he goes, why are you treating me with such respect after what I did? That's a confession. And I didn't even ask him a question, did I?
What, like from everything you've learned and observed over the years, what do you think is the biggest advice to help people to become more likable? The most important advice?
Top 3, friendship signals, eyebrow flash, head tilt, smile, and then empathic statement. Find common ground.
So everything we mentioned, basically, all wrapped around the golden rule of friendship.
Yes. Because if you make someone feel good about themselves, you gotta use these very, very simple tools, and they work.
Seems simple somehow.
It is simple because all we're doing is we're just mimicking what normal people do. But it's hard for us to do it because it's all about us. That's the hardest part you're going to face. You got to suspend your ego. And that's hard to do. It took me a long time.
Yeah. It's a practice that you have to keep doing, otherwise it's easy to forget, right? And fall back to
it's a perishable skill. But does it pay off? Yeah, because you develop really good relationships with people. Because you become a good listener. You become a critical listener. You become somebody who people can open up to and trust. And then you end up having deeper, more meaningful relationships.
Awesome.
And that's about all I have to say about that.
Yeah, I think it was a wonderful conversation. It was very insightful, very interesting, and despite me having read the book, there was still new stuff. So I think we had a great conversation. I really enjoyed it.
Now, if you're curious to dive deeper into those concepts, you can check out the book The Like Switch. And otherwise, you can also watch this video next, where I talk about the 5 main things that I've learned after reading more than 55 books on people skills.